Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And we would like to welcome you in the second session for the employment guidelines. Today, we have an expertise doctor from India, Mr. Jadwan Mani, and he
Okay, excuse me. Mr. Gideon is a clinical psychologist with a doctoral degree in career psychology from United Kingdom, with advanced qualifications in counseling, philosophy, and theology. He is the managing trustee of the Promise Foundation, India. His work for than 30 years has focused on the interface between culture and counseling. He has presented his research at over 80 international conferences through key he talks in about 150 scientific publications. Mr. Gideon is an international development consultant. He has been an external collaborator for the ILO for the last 10 years. Mr. Gideon is also interested in handicrafts and runs a small online business called Mawila. Mr. Gideon, the floor is yours. You may start your presentation, please.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, George. And a very warm welcome to all of you in the meeting today. As you might know, I am speaking to you all the way from the other side of the world, which is South India in Bangalore. And it's great to have a chance to interact with you. As you know, this is my first session with you. There will be 5 more after today. And today my target is to give you an overview, a broad overview of work and job and career, and then talk about, if we want to do career guidance, what are the 3 or 4 main steps that we need to keep in mind. Then subsequently, in our following sessions, I will give you ideas and notes and lectures on each of the parts of career guidance. All right, so let me start. And as we go along, if there are questions, please put them into the chat and I will try and answer them as best as I can. All right. Okay, let me bring up my slide now. Okay. I hope you can see the screen. George, you can see the screen, right?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, let me start.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is an e-learning course, as we know, and the focus is on career guidance and some of the main concepts related to career guidance, and at least we can talk about some of the skills that are related to career guidance. And my objective for you over these coming sessions is to give you an orientation, give you as much material as I can, but actually the skills training, we haven't designed this course for skills training. It's to make you aware of some of the most important concepts and skills related to career guidance. Right, so let me go on. Yeah. And the way I've structured this course, the components of the course is that there is some amount of conceptual foundation. That means the ideas and the concepts related to career guidance. Some focus on the skills. What happens very often is that we talk a lot about what is career guidance, but then when it comes to the skills, there isn't enough. So some focus on skills. And then I will leave you every session with a set of self-learning exercises. You will receive very detailed notes from me through the ILO platform. And these are opportunities for you to tutor yourself. The way we are planning this is that I will give you ideas for assignments that you could do. If you're interested, you could do these assignments. This course is not designed to grade your assignments or to correct your assignments, but at the beginning of every following session, I will review the assignments with all of you, right? So that way you will get an idea as to what the answers are, and it will also give us a chance to review what we did in the previous session. Yeah. So this is broadly the structure that I am planning to follow. The course material, as I said, is lecture notes and PowerPoint presentations that you will receive. You will also get, in the lecture notes, you will find that there are samples and templates of exercises, of worksheets, charts, dictionaries, learning cards, material from the ILO, website links and references. You'll get all of this in the lecture notes. So if you went to the worksheets, you'll see how you can actually conduct that particular activity in your classroom or in your employment center. Okay, so this is broadly the way I have planned. Right, to go on now, the title of this presentation is From the Flint to the Microchip, and an overview of the evolution of work and job and career. These are key words. Work is a key word, job is another one, and career is another key word. And what you see in the picture is that this is a lump of stone. This is where human work started nearly 40,000 years ago, from the flint. So with stone, our forefathers created tools, and then they started engaging with the world around them. And over the years, time has gone, and today from the flint, we have the microchip, which is inside the computer, inside our phones, and almost all our tools have come through this wonderful history of the flint moving on to the microchip. And that's what I want us to focus on today, to get that historical background as to how work has evolved and how the idea of career has come up to us today, right? Okay, so our learning outcomes that we are planning is that you will have a historical orientation to the emergence of career, and then for us to spend some time asking, what is career? What are the characteristics of career? Is everything that we do a career? No. So what is a career then? And that we'll spend some time looking at that. Now, this word career comes to us from the West. It comes to us from the theories and the social organization and the culture of England and the United States and the Western cultures. Yeah. Now, does this career mean the same in our countries, in the East, in Kuwait or in Bahrain or in India or in Lebanon? That's a point that I'd like to discuss with us today, because if you're going to do career guidance, we must be sure that the career guidance we are doing fits to our young people, our youth who are growing up in a culture that's not such a Western culture. So at the end of this, you must be able to say that according to you, this is what career means, your personal definition of a career. We will end today's session by looking at the 4 key elements of career guidance. If you're wanting to put a career guidance system into your country, then there are 4 main topics, 4 main activities that we need to focus on. And so I'll highlight that. The subsequent sessions on the 5th and 12th, and as we go along, I will take each element and present some ideas to you. All right? Okay, now when we look at work, work is influenced by global forces. As we saw very recently, just earlier this year, for 2 years, there was a global force which swept across all our countries, the virus, the pandemic, which changed our way of working, changed the nature of our engagement with work. And this has been the history of work for thousands of years. Right? Work happens in a certain location, in Bahrain, let's say, or in Lebanon, or in Bangalore, right? But that work that we do is influenced by very powerful global factors. So it's a fundamental activity. Work is present in all our cultures, and all through its evolution, we have seen macro forces like industrialization, modernization, colonization, westernization, and today globalization, which has formed and changed and shaped our orientations to work. Now, what we're looking at over the course of the day today is not a particular work. We're not looking at lawyer or medicine or engineer. We are looking at we are not looking at a career, but we're looking at career as a type of work. That's my first point that I'd like you to start thinking about. Career is work, but it is different from the global understanding of work. Yeah? And what is the meaning of that? The manner in which career manifests itself is a complex phenomenon. Yeah? Work we all do. We wake up in the morning and we get our clothes ready, cook the breakfast. We all work, isn't it? But do we all pursue a career? This is a point that I'm wanting us to look at. So what is the difference between work and career? So work is influenced by a variety, career is influenced by a variety of factors. Yeah. Right. Now, just imagine that you lived many, many thousands of years ago, 40,000 years ago. Imagine. Yeah? What might have been some of your work tools? If we had a chance to speak, we could have spoken about it. But would this have been a work tool for you 40,000 years ago? Very unlikely, isn't it? Almost definitely not. Yeah. So our tools have evolved. Today, this is a very important part of our work lives. But we didn't have it. Even 10 years ago, we didn't have it. So how did work evolve? First of all, work was just linked to survival, isn't it? Thousands of years ago, 40,000 years ago, as you can see in this rock painting made 40 years ago, people worked in order to survive. Food, clothing, and shelter. This was the purpose of work. Another interesting point when we look at it from historical sources like this painting that you see over here is work was mainly a group activity. This is how it started. The group work together, like you can see in this picture, they're hunting. A group is hunting and they work together. So work was by the group and for the group. A career is something different, isn't it? Career, we're really not so concerned about my friend. I have to get to the top. So over the years, career has changed from being a group activity to an individualistic activity. But now, work was initially related to survival. It was mainly a group activity. Then slowly, expertise began to develop. In the beginning, everybody did everything. But maybe in that group, one person was good at hunting. Another person may have been good at weaving. So the group said, you do hunting, you do weaving. And so you can see from something that was a group exercise, slowly individual talent, individual ability started coming to the front. These skills were grouped. They became groups or skill sets. These skill sets were labeled and these groups of skills were given names. And this is how occupation was born. So the name would have been, say now coming to 5,000 years ago, you had the fisherman, the farmer, the cattle breeder, potter, weaver, healers, traders, and now computer programmers, biotechnologists, space researchers, a list that will continue to grow for as long as human needs exist. So from something that was broad and general, work became something much more specialized and occupations emerged. Names of occupations, right? Now, these occupations were organized, when you look at history, they were organized into groups called guilds. So you had the guild, the group of carpenters, the group of healers, the group of priests. And there were rules and regulations that controlled the guilds. Yeah, you had to do work in this way. There were rules. If one of your customers had a problem with you, they can complain to the guild. So you can see gradually work became more and more organized. That's an important point for us to keep in mind. This organization of occupation. Yeah. Work also began to give people an identity. Yes, I am a carpenter. I am a healer. Even today, our identity is so closely connected with the work that we do. When we say, who are you? Or tell me what you do. One of the first things that we ask each other when we meet for the first time, And the other person would say, oh, I work in a company as a computer programmer. So me and my identity are very closely kept together by the work that we do. Now, for a long time, children born into certain families continued the trade of that family. Yeah? Almost until the 15th century or so in the West, in England and America and places like this, occupations began to run in families, conforming to hereditary regulations. This is the history of work. In many countries, even today, in my country, for example, a family is known by the occupation that it does. The idea of career is only for a top few 10, 15% of the population. The rest follow family traditions, family organizations. Yeah. Another thing that happened with work is that an occupation got a certain prestige loading. And therefore, we have this occupational hierarchy. Certain occupations were at the top of the hierarchy based on the culture. Certain occupations were much lower down. Even today, when we look at the world of work, the attribution of respectability depends on the occupation that one does. A doctor has a much higher respectability than a construction worker, isn't it? And broadly speaking, almost in all our cultures, white-collar professions, working in an office, in a room with nice air conditioning, white-collar professions are always thought to be higher than blue-collar professions. Blue-collar is where you work with your hands, you're a mechanic or you're a field worker, you're an agriculturist. So those are lower, we think, lower than the white-collar profession. So therefore, but today, when we look at it, what do we see? We want our children to go to university. Now, whether the university is going to give a job or not is not so important in our minds. So when it comes to a choice between going to university and going to a technical school, the thinking is university is better than technical school. When I was in school many, many years ago, 40 years ago, uh, our teachers said that if you're intelligent, you will study science. If you're okay, then you will study business and those sort of things. If you're a dud, if you're zero, then you study humanities, history and geography and all that. And if you are poor, you go to the technical school. They said that 30 years ago. They're still saying it in my country, and I also hear it in many, many other countries that I visit. So this prestige hierarchy comes directly into touch with our career guidance, isn't it? So when you're doing career guidance, if you recommend to a family that your son is not so much for academics, he'll do much better in a practical, skills-based course, many families wouldn't like to hear that, isn't it? So you can see that career choice is not simply saying you have this talent, do this job. All these cultural factors get involved. So caste, race, blue collar, white collar, educational pathway, all of these get tied up with this prestige hierarchy in the world of work. Now, two major events occurred in the Western history which has affected our idea of work. And what is that? Between the early 1700s to the 1900s, until now, what I was saying just now is the way work was organized. It ran in the family, and you are not allowed to move from one job to occupation to another. But the two bombshells, two very powerful events occurred in the West, not in our countries. These two events I'm talking about did not happen in our countries, but it was brought to our countries by Western colonizers. What are those? Very important milestone in history, and that is the first and the second industrial revolutions. Yeah, it began in England, and it started with the discovery of power-driven machinery. Until now, work was hand done. If you wanted to grow wheat, you went to the field with your cows and your plow, and you did it with your physical strength. Right? Then the discovery of power started pushing work away from the human individual to power-driven machines. So now with the Industrial Revolution, goods could be produced at greater speed and larger quantities at lower costs. This has continued even till today. So it is a big milestone in the history of work. So we shifted from handmade to machine made, right? Here's a picture. In any factory, you'll find huge machines like this, which do work on behalf of the human being. So how did it change then? From being a person who had to cultivate the field, from being the person who made the table or the basket by your hand, you had to learn the skill of knowing how to run the machine that made the basket, run the machine that made the table. So from handmade, we moved into the factory environment. Yeah. So the factory emerged as a place of work in this period of time. Now, one of the outcomes of the Industrial Revolution is that numerous new areas of occupation were created. And new occupations started coming into the world. Until now, it was, as we said, set in families and carpenter, fisherman, whatever it was. Right? But with the Industrial Revolution, new occupations were created. The reason I'm highlighting this is since the Industrial Revolution, this pattern has continued. There have been more revolutions, and with each revolution, an older form of working dies and a newer form of working emerges. So when we do our career guidance today, remember, if our age group is from high school till about college or so, the career guidance that we are doing cannot be the career world of today. We need to be able to think into the future and say, this is where this 18-year-old student is going to be when she finishes her studies. And what are those new areas of occupation? That's a very important part of career guidance. So with the Industrial Revolution, because there were new occupations, new skills were called for, new kinds of expertise were called for by the factories. At that time, it was mainly related to manufacturing. Many countries today have taken over the manufacturing responsibilities of the West, isn't it? In India, for example, right here, close to where I live, is a huge factory which has nearly 35,000 people working in there. It's a factory that makes cars, and it's the factory that makes Volvo cars. Volvo is a Swedish company, right? Now, in Sweden, people started to say, no, we don't want to work with our hands. Find some place where it can be done cheaply, cheaper than us. So who is that then? We people here on the other side of the world. So we produce the Swedish cars here for less than 1/10 of the cost that they would incur if they did it in Sweden. So manufacturing continues, but it continues in other countries. It may not happen in the country where it started. It's outsourced. That's a big word that's come now with globalization, isn't it? So new occupations, new skills, at that time mainly related to manufacturing. These changes also causes a significant rural-urban migration. This we see in history, we see it even now in many of our countries. The work is available in the cities. The type of work that's available in the villages is limited. So naturally, people move out from their villages out into the big cities. Bangalore, where I live, is a huge city we have nearly 10 million people in the city. And there are many factories, many opportunities. So people come to Bangalore from all over the country, mainly from the rural areas, looking for work here. So this rural-urban migration is another phenomenon that needs to be thought through. Now, we'll come to this in more detail just now, but when you look at career, at the heart of career is this word, choice. If there isn't choice-making freedom, then there cannot be career guidance. If I am told by my parents, if I am told by my society, most importantly, if I'm told by my political system that this is what you have to do, we as the state have decided that this is your job. Maybe it's a good job and I carry on with it. Then there is no longer the question of career guidance, right? You're told. So if you're talking about career guidance, one of the things that resulted from the Industrial Revolution is the freedom to make a choice. I could leave my village, I could go to the city, and I could make a choice and say, I am going to pursue this type of a profession. Right? As I said just now, this process has continued all through the history of work. And there is a revolution, there is a change, something happens in our global environment, and that changes, pushes work to a different track, to a different set of skills, to different sets of occupations. Yeah. So this was what happened early on, 15th century or so in the West, the first and second industrial revolutions, but these revolutions have continued. We had, by the mid-60s or so, the third industrial revolution. And what is the third industrial revolution? The main characteristic of this revolution is the digital revolution, the computer revolution. Yeah? Until now, work was done in the factory, there were machines, but by the 1960s, the whole idea of work changed dramatically because of the discovery of the computer. So this caused the next big shift in human engagement with work. Technology shifted, our work shifted from mechanics, from those big wheels and levers and gears and steam and petrol and all those machines, shifted away from mechanical processes to digital processes, right? So the processing of information changed completely. So technology shifted away from mechanical processes to the use of digitization and brought such devices as the computer and the internet into work. Yeah. This is how outsourcing became possible. From the 1960s onwards, work started moving out of its geographical location to other geographical locations. Now, today, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. And this is something very important for us to keep in mind because this is the future of the children for whom we are doing career guidance. Yes, and what is that? It is the fourth industrial revolution. Now, in the fourth industrial revolution, something that's really changed is what they call these cyber physical systems. Cyber physical systems. What are they? These are physical and software components which are intertwined and interact with each other, and they change with the context. In this revolution, you had a software, the software is running, and it does its thing. But in this fourth industrial revolution, when you say there are cyber physical systems, cyber is the computer, physical is the environment. Today, this cyber system, this computer system, learns from the physical system and changes itself. Right? So therefore, there is this embedding of information technology into human society. Earlier on, the computer was there and society was here. Today, the computer and this cyber-physical approach is in our society. Right? Today, if you open any of the applications that you use, after you've used it 2 or 3 times, the application will tell you, we think this is a good choice for you. Supposing you've been shopping online for books, and this cyber physical system inside Amazon or inside Google, it learns that you're going on looking for books which are related to gardening. So 4th time when you go on, that system gives you a list and says, why don't you look at this? Why don't you look at this? The dialogue you get is we. Who is this we? Right? It's the we that we have created by creating these systems. Right? So information technology now is in our lives, got into the way we think and the way we behave. Robotics, artificial intelligence, biosynthetic materials, biotechnology, 3D printing, all of these are examples of the fourth industrial revolution. So if you look at this picture, the reason I have it here is that this is not a human being, it's a robot. What has happened to this machine, which we have created, is that this machine has reached a point where it can say it no longer needs me. So in the fourth industrial revolution, and what our children are going to face is this autonomization of work tools. Autonomization means the tool no longer needs you. It learns, it goes on, and if this idea goes on, the robot will be able to learn and move and grow and become bigger and bigger. So the question that really comes up to us when we say there is this autonomization of work tools is what happens to all the jobs that we are doing now. Some of these are going to be taken over by these. And our career guidance, therefore, needs to start preparing our young people for this world, the fourth industrial revolution. Whether this is good or bad, whether this is, I think it's a horrible thing, personally, because the human being has become a tiny dot now. But this is the future. And we need to start working our career guidance to prepare our young people for this kind of a future. So that's a quick overview of the history of work. We started with a piece of stone, right? And we have ended, and we not ended, we are today at this this stage of electronics and microchips, which can learn and which can grow independently of us. So if you look at the pre-industrial time, the time when we were using stone tools or iron tools and we were handmade work, guidance may not have been needed at all. The profession ran in the family, father taught the children, children taught their children, and it just went on like that for hundreds and hundreds of years until the Industrial Revolution came up. So in this kind of an environment, guidance may not be an urgent necessity. But then we saw the Industrial Revolution. The industry came up. It needed workers with specific traits and abilities. These two are key words for us as career guidance people, isn't it? A trait is a special characteristic, right, that I have, or you, or our students have. It might be the trait of drawing very neatly. It might be the trait of being able to calculate numbers very correctly and fast. Yeah? It may be the ability, physical ability of doing physical work. So the industry started saying at that time, we don't want people who can do everything. We want people with a specific trait, the specific quality, because that machine needs that trait. On this side, the worker needed guidance toward jobs for which he or she was best suited. Yes, and therefore, in the late 1900s, was born career guidance. Career guidance bringing the industry and the worker together. And so, very broadly, very quickly, this is a history of work, isn't it? Now, the reason I'm bringing this slide up for you to keep in mind is not all countries are yet at the stage of requiring career guidance. In many of our developing economies, if we just went out from the big cities, just out into the countryside, you will find that still work is being done in the pre-industrial way. Even in our cities, if you look at craft, for example, you look at agriculture, for example, that mechanization has not yet come. So in many of our countries, pre-industrial, industrial, and post-industrial characteristics all happen at the same time. You might have a person for career guidance who comes from a rural, remote area where work is being done in the pre-industrial way. Or you may have a student, young person who's coming to you for career guidance who is in the fourth industrial revolution. So for us in our countries, we need to have career guidance which goes across this whole spectrum. Unfortunately, we get caught up just with this. But there are hundreds of young people, hundreds of families who are still here. And that's what I hope we'll have a chance to look at more closely as we go along. Just out of interest, this is the father of career guidance in the 1900s. He wrote, his name is Frank Parsons. Yeah, and he wrote this book called Choosing a Vocation. And in the 1900s, about 100 years ago, when career guidance was born, the idea was to accurately match people to occupations. As you saw here, yes, the industry needed people, people needed industry, and career guidance did the match. And that was started for us by somebody called Frank Parsons in the United States. Now, let's move into the next idea, which I introduced you earlier on. We have work, all of us work the whole day, and we have career. Is this the same? Is there a difference between work and career? So my statement to you over here is all careers are forms of work, but the reverse may not always be true. Career is work, but not all work is career. Just keep that in mind and we will go on. So as an area of human activity, work is everything. Work is broader in what it encompasses. Everything we do, gardening in the morning, picking up children from school, uh, all of this is in our work. But a part of that work, we say, is career. How is that distinction made? That's what I'd like us to look at. So therefore, career is work with certain characteristics. Work with certain special characteristics. Here is a picture. Yeah, if we had a chance to talk with each other, we could have done that. And the question that I have for you is that imagine that this is a beautiful island. It is a beautiful island. It's in the Republic of Maldives, yeah, which is a country, which is an island nation. A beautiful island. Now, what is special about this island is that there are no people here. It's an uninhabited island, but it has coconut trees. The sea is full of amazing fish. It has breadfruit, all enough over there to live. Now imagine that you were going past this island on a boat and your boat was wrecked and you were the only survivor and you swam and reached this uninhabited island. The question then is, can you have a career on an uninhabited island? Yeah, you can have work. You need to harvest the coconut. You need to harvest the breadfruit. You need to build a shelter for yourself. You need to protect yourself from the weather. Maybe you fish. There's a lot of work to do. But can you have a career on an uninhabited island? This is where our thinking about career guidance begins. Because as I said, career is work with certain special characteristics. What is that? The first characteristic of career, as different from work, is that when you're making a career choice, you are exercising your will. You're exercising choice. When you have your young person sitting in front of you for career guidance, that boy or girl has so many options in front of her. Lawyer, engineer, architect, artist, uh, journalist, a whole lot of things, isn't it? Now, he or she is going to choose. When it is work, there is no choice. I have to wash dishes in my house. Every day for the last 30 years, I've been washing dishes in my house. If I start saying that, oh, maybe should I wash or not wash, there'll be a lot of funny things that happen around me. Yeah, work is something we have to do. Perhaps it's still tied up with our survival. But I can say that I love dishwashing so much that I am going to choose this as my profession. Then it's not just work. It's my profession. It's my career. It's that process that you and I are getting engaged in when we start doing career guidance. The first characteristic of career is choice making. Second is, how do you make this choice? There are many ways in which this choice is made. One way that it's made is that I listen to my friends, I listen to my neighbors, I listen to my father and mother, and I make a choice. That's the most common way in which career choice is made. What are everyone else doing? What is the most popular? What is it that has scope for the future? And we choose. But the question that comes is this one. What if I make a choice for which I am not suitable? In my country, perhaps it's the same in yours, in your countries. Going to university and going to technical school is a choice. Here in India, it's not a choice because everyone wants to go to the university. But is university suitable for you? Is an academic pathway suitable for you? This is where the question of career guidance comes into play. Our duty Our role and the skills that we need is to help a young person make this choice based on what she is going to do well in. Again, coming back to an example here in India, the most sought after careers in India are medicine and engineering. Yeah, here, and it's common, I'm sure it's similar in your countries as well. We want our children to either become a doctor or an engineer. But we don't stop to think, is this young person going to be a good doctor? Is this young person going to be happy doing engineering? Is she suitable for it? Most often, this thought is not given. And so in many countries, we have students coming into colleges, right? And as the studies begin, they realize, oh, this is not at all what I want. Yeah, in one of the big engineering colleges here in India, engineering college, all right? After one semester of students being in the engineering college, my colleague, who was a counselor there, asked them, this is about 110 engineering students, right? After 6 months of study, she asked them, do you like engineering? 82 of the 110 said, no, we don't like engineering. Yeah? And we see this story repeated. I see the story repeated in country after country because children are making decisions based on factors that are around them, cultural factors, religious factors, social factors, not personal factors. And that is a key connection which we need to make when we do career guidance. And in our next sessions, I will show you different ways of how you can figure out, how you can help your client say, okay, this is the best path for me. And this is where I'm going to be happy. So making a choice on suitability. Now, having made your choice, you need to prepare. For me to wash dishes in my house, there is no qualification. I don't need to go to college and learn, get a degree or a diploma to wash my dishes in my house as part of my work. But if I became a professional dishwasher and I'm going to work in a hotel where there are big machines where plates and vessels are sterilized and cleaned with steam and detergents and all of that, I need to study it. I need to prepare for that career, and preparing for that career in certain cultures, in the non-industrialized cultures, preparing for that kind of a career means I'm prepared for it within my family. I belong to a family of jewelry makers. I've watched my father. I've done it. And my father has handed over the work to me and I carry on. But in career, you have to prove with a certificate, with a degree or a diploma to say, I am prepared to do this work. I have the qualifications for it. Career also means there is ongoing development. Today, the demands of a career change very rapidly. 3 months, 4 months, a particular software that you learned is out of date. You need to move on. There need to be the existence of opportunities for a career choice to happen. If we are looking at a country where there aren't opportunities, then career guidance is going to become difficult, isn't it? So these are some of the characteristics of career. Making a choice, figuring out my suitability, preparing for it, ongoing studies, engaging with opportunities, and having the freedom of choice. Now, the reason you can't have a career on an island is because on an island, there is no one for whom you can do your career. A career is part of a social, personal dimension. Now, I may make a beautiful, with the coconut leaves on the island, I may make a very beautiful plate. But for whom? There's no one else on that island. But if I make that beautiful plate in a culture, in an economy where there is a demand for it, then I am in the world of career. So career rests on this giving and receiving. So what is a career? A career is the willful direction of energy. It's specialized effort. Long ago, we saw in the first slides that everybody did everything. But with career, you need to be a specialist. You're an architect or a lawyer or some specialist. It's for a duration of time. It's to meet social needs in a specific area of work, and this is what you are giving. Why should you give this? In the career language, It's a means of your prosperity. It's a means of realizing your potentials, and that is what you receive. It is in this giving and receiving that career exists. Yeah. If you have nothing to give, or if what you give is not relevant to the labor market, there is no career for you. That is where we need to prepare our young people. And at the same time, if you're giving and not getting back what you think you ought to, what you deserve, then also you're going to be unhappy with your career. Right? Okay, now these are ideas that I presented to you. The question is this universal? Does it exist all over the world? Remember I said these are ideas that have come to us from the West. Yeah? All these industrial revolutions have brought it to us. It requires opportunity. It requires freedom of choice. Without freedom of choice, there is no career guidance. And when I look at non-Western cultures, I often ask myself, is there truly freedom of choice in the hand of the 15 or 16-year-old? Or is the voice of the society telling her that this is what you should do? As a girl, no, this you cannot do. As a boy, you're the head of the family, you have to have this type of a career. So is there really freedom of choice? Which is what has brought me, after many years of being in career guidance, to realizing that when we work outside the Western context, when we work in countries like ours, our client is not the individual only. It's not the boy or the girl or the young person. It is the people who are influencing that boy or girl or young person. It's the father and the mother, or the grandfather and that group. So here, when we do career guidance and when I train counselors for career guidance, we say that career guidance will be most effective if we can bring the family into career guidance. So our sessions, the model that I use, this Jiva career, the model that you see here, this method of guidance, we start our work with the family, father, mother, and child. All three have to come into the session, and then we are able to integrate, because the son has something to say which the father may not agree with. Father has something to say which is 25 years out of date. So career guidance is a chance for us to bring both these units together, bring them together so that together they can go into the future. Because when you look at cultures like this, these are all pictures that I've made in the last 2-3 years. These are all full, thriving occupations. Right? This is from Lebanon, from your part of the world. Yeah? Beautiful, beautiful jewelry made. This is from Afghanistan. This is from Indonesia. All very thriving, very, these people are quite wealthy with the business they do. Basket making, farming, yes, soap making. Now, these are traditional occupations. For this boy, he didn't go to the Polytechnic to learn about basket making. Or this man didn't go to the mask making institute. There is no such thing. Isn't it? We need to do our career guidance in this context. For many of us, this is the context. Yeah? Pulling this boy and putting him in front of a computer and saying, now you learn how to do the computer, may not really work. Yeah? So the question is, in other societies, human engagement with work progressed as it had for centuries earlier. Here, the Industrial Revolution happened in America and Britain. They changed. But in many of our economies, many of our cultures, the way we engage with work has not changed. Parents play a very critical role. Cultural values of society play a very, very critical role. Religion plays a very strong influence in our lives. Yeah? Even today, all one has to do is to step a few miles outside the cities, and we will find pre-industrial features characterizing the nature of work. So career, as it has been described earlier in this writing, barely exists in many of our cultures. Yet we are asked to do career guidance. So what is it that we need to keep in mind? So what I'm proposing for you to think is that this idea of career is there in all societies now. But what it means is different in these societies and these societies. As you can see over here, this is what career means: success, employment, job, work, company, success, prosperity, salary, climbing up, going to the top. This is one kind of culture. And in this culture, career works. This is what you're expected to do. And these are mainly Western industrialized cultures. But in many societies, this is the nature of work. These are two boys who are very very prosperous. They are two blacksmiths, and they make all the tools for their village. This is an ancient craft in Vietnam where they use uh, mother of pearl to make jewelry. Yeah, there also culture needs to guidance needs to be done. But here we need to make sure that our approach is not culturally alien. If we walked into a conservative Islamic home and we told the boy or the girl that your father is wrong, he doesn't know what he's talking about, we are lost, isn't it? Yeah, we need to integrate our work with the existing culture. And these are mainly in our type of society. So career exists, but it exists on a continuum. On the one hand, you have the Western notion of career. We are somewhere along that continuum. We want our children to have careers and come into the modern labor market, but the cultural factors that are underneath need to integrate with those cultural factors. Yeah. Right. So then what is career guidance? To define it now, career guidance is a service that aims at helping individuals optimize their personal potentials. Remember, we talked about suitability. All of us have potentials. Every single human being has a potential. And we'll learn more about this in our next session. So our job as career guidance people, career development specialists, is to help the individual find his or her potential. And how does he realize this potential? Through the effective realization of his or her social and economic role as a worker. Remember, career as a social context. Yeah. So career guidance pulls these potentials into the social reality. For lifelong development, career guidance is not you meet the student for 1 hour, give a test and it's over. It's for the lifelong development of personal well-being as well as prosperity to the immediate community and the society at large. So it's that dynamic tension. Me, my potentials, my wishes and desires, society, societal needs, societal rules and regulations, both pulling at each other so that the young person can proceed. Yeah. So to be effective, career guidance must be informed by a culturally resonant interpretation of social, behavioral, and pedagogical sciences. So this culturally resonant is a key factor which countries like ours need to very, very consciously bring into our career guidance work, or else almost all the theories that are in existence now, almost all the tools that are in existence now were developed in another country, in another culture, and I feel they're not at all relevant. They don't fit into our economies properly. Okay? And we'll come to that as we go. So now, as we come to the practical part, these were all the conceptual foundations that I was presenting to you. Now let's look at the second part, which is remember I said there are going to be skills and activities that I'd like to expose you to. What are the key elements of career guidance? It's nice to talk about all these things, Western, Eastern, and all of that. How are we going to actually practice it? Yeah. So I look at career guidance as having 4 main sections, 4 main activities, and we'll come to that. Before that, the question that I have for you is to ask yourself, when you do your career guidance, is it job matching? Is that what we say is career guidance? When we put a career guidance program into play, we were expecting that when we do career guidance, students will find jobs. And I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about that. So job matching is a phrase that is often linked with career guidance, isn't it? We want, at the end, our young people to have good jobs. Fine. I have no quarrel with that. But as we go along, finding a job is of great importance, but is that all career guidance is about? Job finding. Yeah? If that's all it is about, all you need is a job portal and the student, and you go through the job portal and you ask, okay, what about this, and that's over. Career guidance is over. Career guidance is more than job matching. Does the role of career guidance end once a person has been matched to a job? This word, matching, is become a very controversial word now. And let's look at why. Career guidance goes beyond merely matching a person to a job. The overarching objective of career guidance is to lay the foundations for lifelong career development. Now, this lifelong has become even more urgent for us to think about as counselors today in the fourth industrial revolution, because the rate at which changes are happening in the labor market is much, 1,000 times faster than it was 40,000 years ago. 40,000 years ago, it took 30,000 years for the human being to move from stone tools to iron tools. Now it takes months, weeks even, for changes to happen, right? So guidance is a lifelong activity. Those of you who come from government, my point that I often bring up with governments is, are you putting a lifelong system into place? Or are you putting a cross-sectional system where there is some job matching that is done? You have a job matching website and the portal, job is matched, job is done. But then what happens to that person when she is 25, 30 years old? Supposing she wants to change her career. Supposing she wants to go on another new educational pathway. So a system of career guidance, a national system of career guidance must keep lifelong development, career development in view. Yeah. Right. So what are we wanting our young people to keep in mind? Plan for a career, not just a job. Plan for a career, not just a job. And what do I mean by this? Let's go over it. It's important that our young people understand the difference between work and career. We've discussed for the last 1 hour. Yes. What is this job idea? Let's see. Yeah. A strong career is made up of many jobs. Let me pause over here and discuss this a little bit more in detail with you. Now, if we have a program or employment program in a country where we are offering 3-day training, 4-day training, 5-day training, short-term trainings like this, and we imagine that, let's say, it is mobile phone repair. Yeah. And so the student comes, lots of them come because they're very interested in the mobile phone, and they take a 3-day workshop with you and they go. Right. Now, is that a career or just a stopgap job? Because if that student has finished high school, and then done this 5-day or say even 18-month diploma course with you, all that person can do is that job. If the market changes, and the market changes, as we said, very, very rapidly, what happens to that training becomes irrelevant. Slightly higher level over here in India, becoming an air hostess is very, very popular with girls. They all want to travel, etc. And there are courses for becoming an air hostess, say 18-month course, 6-month course. So you do that course, you apply to an airline, and you can maybe get a job as an air hostess. All right. Now, when the travel airline industry goes down, all that you can do is to be an air hostess. You've not studied anything more than that, right? So you don't have flexibility in the labor market. On the other hand, rather than studying for this job, supposing that student has been guided to study, let's say, hotel management, which is a broad course. Airline industry is one job under that big umbrella. Airline industry doesn't work, you are fed up of it, you want to move, you can move into another sector. You can move into the hotel industry, tourism, hospitality, because you have a broader qualification. So when we're putting a career guidance system into place, we are wanting our young people to learn career development and not just job development. Yes, and there are ideas that I'll bring up in the next session. So therefore, understand that a career is related to one's suitability, which we spoke about earlier on. By pursuing a career rather than a job, one has a better chance of realizing one's potentials and of serving society. So we are wanting to prepare our young people for a career and not just a job. Yes. Now, what does that actually mean? Here is an idea. Remember, I said that I will be giving you worksheets and so on. So if you look at page 12 in your notes or around there, you will find this worksheet that I have put there as an example. It's to be changed and adapted for your country. But we are wanting young people to start thinking about, am I just going for a job which can be lost tomorrow? Or am I going for a career and there are many jobs under that? So this is a worksheet. Yeah? On the one hand, you have this picture of a boy who says, I help my mother with my cooking. On the other hand, you have this girl who says, I'm a footwear designer. Now, if you look at it and you discussed it in your class, this boy is working for his mother. He is not pursuing a career. This girl has a career name. I am a footwear designer. She has studied, she has qualified, she has a degree or a diploma, and therefore she is ready to enter the labor market. He is not yet ready to enter the labor market. And as a footwear designer, that's her career. She has the opportunity of working in a fashion industry, in an orthopedic industry, in a medical industry, so many different jobs. She might work in a hospital where they're making special shoes for people who've lost their limbs. After some time, she may think of an opportunity in the fashion industry where she's designing very expensive and fancy shoes. Yeah. This is a career. This is work. Yeah. Now you will see on that worksheet when you go home, you can have a look at it. This is the exercise. So you discuss with your students what is work. Work is any activity in which we spend our energies, like this young lad. A job is an opportunity to learn a livelihood. Yeah, so he could maybe, from what he has learned from his mother, if he's not going to go and study it, he can maybe start a shop on the roadside and sell something there. So there'll be some money, there'll be some livelihood. Now, a job may or may not be suitable for me, whereas a career is an extension of my talents and my potentials. Yeah, so step one in this activity, we want our young people to start thinking, am I heading towards a job or towards a career? We also want our governments to start thinking, are we just doing job matching, which when market changes, jobs are lost? Or are we putting a career guidance system into place? Yeah. This is a big battle I have continuously when I come into a country as a consultant. Often it is, let's create a whole lot of courses for young people to study. Yes, we want them to get skills, we want them to study these courses. But then these courses are not linked one to the other. Taking this example of the cell phone repair. Now, if that cell phone repair is also connected, so 5 days of cell phone repair, then you have 2 months of home appliance repair, and then you have another course which is home wiring, electrical wiring, then it starts to make a lifelong difference to that person. Then it starts to become a career moving away from a job. So an important point for us to start thinking about, getting our children to think about, and getting our own systems to start thinking about it. In the same idea, when you look at your worksheet, in that sample I've given to you, you'll find this is a picture there. Again, remember, these are pictures from another country. These are ideas for you to change and for you to adapt. One career, many jobs. If you have a career, the chances are that you'd have many jobs. Now here, this man with glasses and the big beard, his career is a psychologist, like me. I'm a psychologist. That's his career. Now he can have, because he's a psychologist, studied and he has qualifications, he can be a school counselor as a job. He can be a consultant in a hospital as a job. He can be in government. He can have his clinic. He can be in the defense services. He can be a counselor. He can work in the non-governmental sector. He can work in the HR area. All of these are possible because he has a sound qualification. Remember earlier on, I was talking about how the labor market is changing and the demand for the human being is changing. Now, if we over-specialize narrowly, our chances in the market are that narrow. But if our qualifications are broad, then if you take this example, if you take me, for example, I can do any of these, look for jobs in any of these at any time because I have this broad qualification. Yeah. So another point that we're wanting our young people to get is a career is not just a job. So when we do our career guidance, the question to ask ourselves is, am I doing career guidance or job guidance? Yeah. A strong career is made up of many jobs like this picture. Your qualifications allow you to grow even if your job does not. You may have a job, but if you don't have a qualification, a sound qualification, you will plateau off in that job. But if you're studying, if you're adding to your qualifications, your career will grow. The ideal career allows you to, sorry, sorry, uh, yeah, sorry. The ideal career allows you to use your potentials and also build your society. That's what a career. The more useful you are to society, the better will be your career development. The more relevant you will be to your world around you. Therefore, success can come by selecting a career for which you are best suited. This becomes a crucial part of career guidance. If I'm to have a career, which career is it? And we have two sessions just for this, and I'll give you examples of how you can get the young person to identify what she is best suited for. Yeah. This is idea number 2. Idea number 3 is that within a career has many tasks, right? And helping part of educating young people to enter the world of work is to help them to go beyond the name of the career. In a country like mine, where there is very great prestige attached to medicine or engineering, that name is what pulls the student. But what will you do? You will do the tasks. The name is forgotten very soon. So part of our career education is not just to match, but to say, look, if you're going to become a financial analyst here, these are your tasks: interpreting financial data, analyzing financial information, determining the price of securities, etc., etc. Do you want to do this? Or are you thinking that financial analyst pays very well, I'll have a great name in my society, so I want to become a financial analyst? Yeah, a girl, one of my students got into medical school, and the day before she joined, she called and said, "Can I have career guidance?" So I said, "It's the weekend, Monday you're joining school, so medical school, so it's too late. But what you can do is to go and sit with your family doctor and see what medicine is about." So she went, it seems. Monday morning, she didn't go to college. My phone was ringing and ringing. I picked it up, and then she says, I only now I found out what is medicine. When I was with my doctor, family doctor, he woke up in the middle of the night and ran to his patient. Then in the clinic, what was he doing? He was cleaning wounds. Some person came with a big sore. Another one came with an accident, bleeding. I don't want to do that. But she had already chosen to do medicine. So you see, part of our career education is to teach children, teach young people what are the jobs, what are the tasks, what are the tasks of a particular profession. So these are 3 linked exercises. I've given you the instructions in the lecture notes. I think you will also have it in Arabic. So this is an idea that you can take and adapt and use perhaps when you are introducing career, job, and work to your clients. Making this distinction between work, job, and career is what this activity is about. The worksheet shows a boy cooking as a spare time activity and a girl working as a qualified footwear designer. The boy could be pursuing a job, the girl could be pursuing a career. Use these images to discuss the difference between a job, a career, covering those points which I mentioned. A job may be something you do for a living, may not need formal qualifications. The future of a job is dim. Someone with qualifications for the same job will make better career progress. To getting young people to start thinking about these things. A career is something broader, as we saw. It requires formal qualification. That is what has happened. In certain societies, again coming back to India, there are groups where you don't need a formal qualification. You belong to that family, and that family absorbs you, teaches you that craft or that trade, and life just goes on. But if you're coming into a career, you need formal training, certificates, diplomas, degrees. It's on the basis of this that your career can progress. That boy in the picture may be a good cook, but it is unlikely that he'll progress to higher positions and become a chef. The girl is formally qualified and she has a good chance of building a career in design. Aim for a career rather than taking up any job that comes along your way. Right? Okay, so we're nearly at the end of our time together. I'd just like to leave you with all this talking that we have done. How do we implement it? And that model is what I'd like to leave you with. And then when we meet again, we'll take each of them. So I call it the career discovery path. Yes, the career discovery path and helping young people move through this path. First part of this path is to help a young person know herself. Remember, we said suitability is very important. Understanding myself is a critical part of career guidance. What does that mean? When you say understand yourself, it means helping the young person know what are her interests, things that she likes, things that she loves, things that she's passionate about. But that's not all, because particularly for adolescents, what you love today, you can hate tomorrow. Interests change, interests come and go. But there is a part of you which doesn't change so easily, and that is your aptitude. We'll learn more about this in our next session. So understanding myself, helping the young person gain insights into interests, into aptitudes, and potentials. And I'll explain what this means in our next session. The combination of interest and aptitude is potential. And we'll learn a technique on how to do that, right? Then, very importantly, this idea of career beliefs. Yeah. As a good counselor, you can help your student find her interest and aptitude and potential, etc. But let's say that in your guidance, in your using the tools that of guidance, you and the student come to the conclusion that her highest potential is for language, linguistic potential, let us say, right? So you think about careers, journalism, lawyer, and all. Let's say journalism and law. Your client goes home, tells her parents that I'm going to become a lawyer. Parents are shocked because there is a career belief, there could be a career belief which says that girls are not to be lawyers. Girls should do cooking, all these soft things. And these career beliefs are more powerful than any kind of psychological career guidance that you do. We live in a context of career beliefs. Girl careers, boy careers. Good careers, bad careers. Clean careers, dirty careers. This is a thinking that's there in our minds and in the minds of our society. Now, this doesn't mean career beliefs are wrong. It doesn't mean if career beliefs are right. But what it does mean is that if we are not, as counselors, aware of these beliefs, then all of this is a waste. Time and time again, there are students who've come, we've done a very great job with them. They go home, parents take the report and throw it and say, you're going to become an engineer. Forget all this. Yeah. So therefore, working with the family, working with the community means working with the career beliefs of that culture. Self-understanding, these are the key points. And in our next sessions, as I said, I will show you tools for interest understanding, aptitude, generating a potential profile. All of these things we'll do in our coming session. Second step, I said there are 4 steps, is to understand the world of work. And we've looked at some exercises today. One exercise today about understanding the world of work. This is the second part. Yeah. Very often, career guidance just stops here by giving children information about lawyer, engineer, architect, commercial artist, etc. We just give them a list. That's not what they need from you. That information today is available on every single portal of career guidance. What they need from you when they're looking at the world of work is to get the skill to look at the world of work critically. The whole world is saying, all my friends are saying, become a chartered accountant. The money is there, the future is there, fine. Yeah, but is chartered accountant for me? Maybe it is great for you. Right? So to look at the world of work with critical eyes. What does that mean? Go beyond the career name. Look at what the career definition is, and I will show you how you can make a career definition for your students. Learn to look at what are the career tasks. Look for the path. Supposing you say you want to become a clinical psychologist, and you're not aware that the path to becoming a clinical psychologist is 15 years long after higher secondary. 3 years of graduation, 2 years of master's, 2 years of MPhil, then at least 5 years of PhD. That's the path. Now, you may be an academic type of student who loves that, but if you're a practical student, that path is too long for you. Yeah, so teaching children the skills of understanding career information. So understanding the world of work goes well beyond giving ideas. This is a lawyer, this is the engineering entrance exam, this is the medical entrance exam, etc., etc. That they can find very easily. You put it on a chart and leave it outside your careers room, that's enough. But teaching them, educating them, so the word I use for it is career learning. And we'll come to it in our next session, the one after the next one. Yeah? Teaching them to learn about a career. The other is educational information. When you look at the world of work, many of your students, depending on who your client is, many of them are not yet at the point of career, they are at the point of educational choices. In all our education systems, somewhere along the way, the student has to make an educational choice. Am I going on the university track or the technical track? Question number one. If I'm going on the university track, am I specializing in business or in science or in humanities? Yeah. Creating that information and making it available for students is the understanding the world of work chunk. Then comes, remember I use the word choice a lot. Then comes, in our guidance, third step is to help them develop career alternatives. Right? Now, what are career alternatives? When they leave you, particularly if they're just after high school or college, they must leave you with at least 3 to 5 career ideas in their head. Because things can change. If I have only one option and I write the entrance test for that option and I don't make it, I need to have a second backup plan. Yeah? So teaching them uh, the skill of matching potential with my careers. This is the third step, and we'll learn that. Yeah. So we need them to have flexibility. We don't want to say at the end, oh, the whole world is at your feet and it's you can go wherever you can do become whatever you want. It's too broad. We want to reduce it, but we don't want to make it so narrow that if there's a failure, they don't have a net into which they can fall. Last step, which we will learn again, is career preparation. Having decided what are your career alternatives, let's say it is law, company secretary, and graphic artist, let's say these are the three. How do you enter now? What is the pathway? What are the career pathways? What are the milestones helping young people to learn this information? Yeah. These are the 4 steps that we are going to follow over the next 5 sessions to understand each component. Right? Let me close now with these, by reminding you of your self-learning exercises. Remember, this is not compulsory. You're not obliged to submit it. This is not a course where you're going to be given a grade at the end. But I will be discussing these self-learning exercises in our next session. But just to show it to you, this is the first one. In the first exercise, I think it's on page 13 onwards. The first one, look at the table below, group the characteristics and events under the appropriate milestones. See, these are all our milestones, isn't it? Early society, first and second revolution, third, fourth, characteristics of career. These are things we've discussed today. I've randomly put it over here. Your task is to match them and put them into the right boxes. Yeah? That way, I hope what I've been speaking about for so long will start clarifying. Yeah, this is exercise number 1. Exercise number 2, as we said, I've given you some definitions of what is a career. Now, I hope you will take the time to read these points and write down in your own mind, your own heart, when you do career guidance, what are you aiming for? What do you want to achieve? So write your personal definition of career and career guidance. Third one, work, job, and career. Refer to the activity, the skills for practice section. Yeah. And according to you, according to your country, what is the difference between work, job, and career in your country? All right. And then if you would like to take that worksheet forward, the work, job, career worksheet forward, then you can translate it into the language most commonly spoken in your country, adapt it for your context, change the characters, change the fill in the blanks, keeping that broad idea in mind. Yeah? That's an open access worksheet. It's there in your notes as well. Please feel free to use it. All right, so I've come to the end of what I was wanting to share with you today. We have about 5 minutes, so let me hand back to George and Asma. If there are questions or points that you'd like to clarify, we could discuss that for a little bit now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jadon, for your valuable presentation. Really very, very rich information for me and for all. Please, if someone would like to ask any question or add any comment, Mr. Gedeon is ready to answer us. Please feel free to ask. We are waiting for you. We still have 5 minutes for discussion with Mr. Gedeon about any comment you feel to ask.
George, I think there is a point in the chat. It's in Arabic. If someone can translate it for me, I'll be happy.
No.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much for your valuable information.
Okay.
Sorry.
It says, thank you for your valuable information. That's the translation.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. And next sessions, we will see the details. Today, I was just an overview, but in the coming sessions, we'll take each point and discuss it separately.
Okay. So I think if no one would like to ask, we would like to close for today. We thank you, Mr. Gedeon, for everything.
George, just one point, sorry, before we go. Today, the way I've presented was it all right for you? Do you want any changes in the way we are presenting? If there's any comment, I can try and incorporate that for the next sessions. Are you happy with the way the...
Yeah, sure. As I said before, very rich information, very valuable information for me and for all. Yeah, and please feel free if on the platform, if you feel you want to share an experience, any question on the platform, we are ready to answer to your question, to your subject. Yeah. Okay. On the platform, every session we open the platform for every unit. So feel free to ask any question by writing in English or in Arabic, and we are ready to answer you, and as soon as possible during the next week. So if no one will ask, so we would to thank you, Mr. Gedeon, to thank all participants, all translator, Asma, Zonara, and thank you for your participation, and see you in the next webinar next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.